Is it possible to pay cash for a vehicle? We have for 30 years, and we're going to walk you step by step through the process that we use when we are looking for a new to us used vehicle. And we're going to get you through the whole process from bumper to bumper. Hi, I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
From Under the Median. Every week on this channel, we talk about practical frugality and living with a spirit of joy and abundance on a budget. So if those topics interest you, make sure that you subscribe and that you hit the bell notification. Let's start by talking about the advantages of buying used over buying new, because we definitely recommend generally that people purchase used.
Okay. Good hope. A new car will depreciate very quickly off the showroom floor. So as soon as you buy that car, you're losing thousands of dollars. Oh, right away. The other thing is, of course, you will pay substantially less for a used car. Now, a used car, you are going to have a little greater risk because there's probably going to be more maintenance fees on a used car over a new one. And you also have to look over a used car a little bit more carefully.
Once you have decided whether you're buying new or whether you're buying used, the first thing you need to do is know your budget. Now, one of the ways that we generally have a car budget set is the fact that as soon as we purchase a new to us used car, we begin saving for the next new to us used car. So immediately we figure out what our budget's going to be. We always figure about 10 years. When we purchase a car, we'd like to keep it at least 10 years. We know about what we're going to pay for the next car, and we start saving immediately a little bit every month toward the next purchase.
Right. So when you're determining a budget for your new car, you need to set the amount that you can afford for that car, and you need to stick to it. One of the things that you'll need to consider in your budget is the possibility of increased maintenance costs on a used car. A lot of times there's probably some things that it's going to need right off the bat.
Right.
Perhaps a new set of tires, maybe some shocks, maybe a 12-volt battery. You never know. So you want to go ahead and leave a little room in your budget to handle that.
Right. So wiggle room.
Right.
That's important.
It is.
So your total budget for your next vehicle should include not only the purchase of the vehicle, but a little bit of header space, we like to call it, for possible immediate maintenance that will need to be done on that car that you purchase.
And this becomes more important if you're buying from a private seller, because a private seller isn't going to fix up their car for you. You're going to be buying that as is. The other thing that you have to consider is you want to have a category in your budget for car upkeep. This is going to be very important, and it'll come in handy as you do a little bit of maintenance on that used car. You also want to check with the insurance company to see what the insurance is going to cost on your new vehicle over the current one that you own.
Because they are different rates, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't want to get that new to you vehicle, your dream car, and find out that your insurance has just doubled. We always call the insurance company and give them a heads up and say, here's what we're looking at, and we give them a couple of different makes and models. Now, they can run just sort of a synopsis, give you a good idea of what your insurance is going to be, even without the VIN number of that vehicle. We've always done that, and we've always known ahead of time, this is how much it will increase, or this is how much it may decrease, depending on the make and model that we are looking at.
And you might want to put more coverage on it if it's a newer vehicle and has lower mileage.
And finally, consider your gas consumption. That's the last element that you need to consider when you're setting your budget for the new vehicle. Because if you go from, say, a small 4-cylinder to an SUV, you are going to be spending more in gasoline, or vice versa. So make sure that you're not only looking at the impact of purchasing the vehicle, but the impact that that vehicle purchase will have on other areas of your budget.
And we went from an electric car back to a gas car. So we really increased our gas budget at that point.
All right, you got your budget. The next thing you're going to
determine what vehicle meets your needs. Mm-hmm. Now, and you might want to consider what vehicle meets your wants or desires. That's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's say there's all kinds of different vehicles. There's subcompacts, there's compacts, sedans, SUVs, pickup trucks, vans, minivans, just all kinds of vehicles. You need to narrow it down to what type of vehicle will meet your needs. The larger the vehicle, the more expensive it's going to be to buy and to own.
For instance, if you live in the country, you may need a pickup truck because you're hauling a lot of things. But if you live in the city and it's a little commuter car, you may very well get by with a much smaller interior and a much smaller vehicle. So carefully consider what your absolute needs are. Now, there's always a difference between our needs and our wants, right? One great example we always give is when we had all 4 boys at home, we had a minivan. We were the minivan family along with everybody else we knew. But when 2 of our sons grew up and moved out, it honestly took Larry a hot second to convince me that we no longer needed a minivan, because to me that was like, there was this symbol of family and togetherness. And he said, you know what? If the older boys meet us somewhere, they drive in their own vehicle. So ultimately, he was absolutely right. A minivan, as nice as it was no longer a priority for us. There were other vehicles that would also meet our needs and allow us, by downsizing, to afford a little newer vehicle with a little less mileage.
Yeah, and you might want to consider, too, where you live. Now, if you live in a mountainous climate or a climate with severe winters, you might want to consider an SUV, like a 4-wheel drive SUV
Right.
in particular.
Other than just the basic type of vehicle, the next thing you're going to want to consider are the options. What options are just really... You want to have those. You're not going to negotiate on those. What are your non-negotiables? For us, I think really having cruise control, that was pretty much a non-negotiable. Now, when we started out looking this time, Larry he wanted a guidance system on the vehicle. And that was, he thought, a non-negotiable. But we'll tell you, we actually wound up negotiating on that point. Now, when you're making a list of options, we really suggest that you make what we love to call a prioritized list. We talk about prioritized lists a lot on this channel. And that's because whenever you are looking at a list, you want the things that are most important to you at the top of the list. So go ahead and create a list of makes, models, options, and put the most important things to you right at the top where you can see them.
2 of the options, as Hope mentioned, one of them was a navigation system. The other thing was I wanted a manual transmission. Well, in the Honda Fit that I was looking at, you really couldn't get both. They didn't offer both on one vehicle. And there are very few of those vehicles that even offer navigation. So I ended up giving up the navigation and buying a Garmin instead, which now I keep with the car. So I have the best of both worlds. I have the manual transmission and I have navigation. So you can always maybe buy something separate if you really need to. Otherwise, consider the options.
And as Larry mentioned, we love our Garmin. We took it on vacation with us and it was priceless and it was spot on with telling us how to get from point A to point B. So if you don't have navigation already installed in your car and you're looking for something that would be helpful, we're going to leave a link to that Garmin in the description of this video because we absolutely highly recommend it.
And let me say too, the advantage of using a Garmin over your phone. I mean, a lot of you are going to say, well, I've got a phone, so I got
Right.
Google Maps on that.
You do.
Well, okay, so if you get phone calls, that's going to be a little bit of a problem if you're navigating at the same time with your phone. A Garmin is going to be a dedicated navigation system. And this is also something that you can put right on your windshield or in a cup holder on your car. So it's always there. It's visible. It gives you so many good pieces of information, like what lane to be in, what the speed limits are, when they change. It even gives you a little warning note that tells you, when the speed limit's going to change. And it breaks down exact precise information that's going to be very handy that maybe your phone won't be able to give you.
And the display was very large. It was right in front of us.
And it's bright.
For people like us, older people need to have large displays. It worked great. So check it out.
Okay, so now you're ready to research used vehicles.
This is the fun part. This is the part that Larry loves.
I enjoy doing this, and I'll spend a lot of time doing it. I'll spend maybe a couple of months doing
easy.
this. So the main website that I use is Car Gurus, and the reason why I use it is that it includes so much information. You can narrow down your search to your geographical location. You can narrow it down by make, model, mileage, price, all kinds of things, options. So it gives you a lot of parameters that will save you a lot of time and effort of as far as going out and physically searching for a used vehicle.
Now, a couple of other websites we really recommend checking out are Edmunds and also Kelley Blue Book. Kelley Blue Book has been around like forever.
Actually, both of them have.
For a really long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
They've stood the test of time, and they're very, like, the resources they give, they're tried and true resources, and you can trust any of these three websites. Now, we're going to leave links to these three websites that we recommend. We'll leave it in the description of the video, so there'll be a link there to Edmunds, Kelley Blue Book, and also to Car Gurus.
Yeah, so I usually begin with a specific make and model in mind. And then I might just take that make, like for instance, let's just say Honda, for instance. I might just do a search for Honda and just look at all their vehicles, see how they're all priced. I narrowed it down to the Fit because, frankly, it's the cheapest Honda you can buy. It's the most scaled down Honda, and it happens to be the most reliable one of their whole lineup. So that's one thing you can do with Car Gurus. Reliability is a factor that is very important in keeping your costs down. That's why I want a car that tests out good for reliability. Two makes are excellent in this category, but there's a caveat. They are more expensive to buy, and that's the Toyotas and the Hondas. So if you're not in that category, and we weren't for years,
Long time.
the next two that are more reliable would be a Mazda and the Nissan. They all have a pretty good reputation for reliability. Now, makes like BMW and Jaguar, they're really nice cars. They're fun. A lot of people own them, but they are more expensive to own, and they require a lot more specialized service.
Now, how can you know the cost of maintenance? If you're looking at a car, let's say you're looking at a Jaguar or a BMW or a brand that you're just not familiar with, you could call a local dealership and say, I just want to have an idea of what these common repairs would cost at your shop. The other thing that you can do, and we have done repeatedly, we have friends who either work in selling used vehicles or they also work in repairing used vehicles. And we have called them when we're looking for a vehicle and said, here's what we're looking at. Can you tell me what kind of repairs are you seeing come into your shop? What are you seeing? What's the price range? How would you gauge these cars and reliability? We had a friend that said, I never see them come into my shop. And it's not because, their shop didn't cover all makes and models. It's because those vehicles just weren't breaking down very much. So rely on people around you that are in the know and go ahead and call them. Use the call a friend. All right? Call a friend and ask, what are you seeing? What's this going to cost me?
And of course, there's a lot of websites that will give you good information on reliability for different makes and models. So there's other places that I also go online for when I'm searching for used cars in our area. You can use Facebook Marketplace. You can use Craigslist, Carvana. Now, Carvana will deliver the car right to your doorstep. Yes, you can buy a car. In fact, a lot of dealerships now deliver, but they tack on about $170 or so delivery fee.
So you've got a convenience fee there. Always make sure that if you're going to go with something like that, you know all the fees involved.
Now, the problem with that is you can't test drive that car. I think they give you a certain amount of time to look it over. But still, I personally don't want to buy a car that way. There are people that do. It's just not my thing. And the other one is Auto Trader and IC Cars. But the one that I use almost exclusively is Car Gurus. Now, you can set the parameters on Car Gurus to narrow down a number of factors. In fact, for our last car purchase, I was looking for a car around, as we mentioned, around the $10,000 range. But I set the top parameter on the price at $12,000. That just gives you a little headroom and allows you to see what the whole area of cars are that would fall in line with that price point. And you always want to keep in mind, when you go to the dealership, that asking price is not necessarily the price that they'll sell you that car for. So you want to be able to dicker that price down a little bit.
We have just a couple more tips on what to do when you're searching for a used car, but Larry just mentioned something very interesting. He said, when you test drive the car, we want to make sure that you stay with us because we're going to tell you in just a couple of minutes exactly what you need to look for when you are test driving that car. All right, Larry, a couple more tips on what they can do when they're actually narrowing down their search and they're looking for cars that they can test drive.
Let me just mention on the test drive, you do not have to be a mechanical genius to test drive a car and get an idea of whether it's good or not. There's a lot of different ways that you can tell whether a car is going to be a good car for you or not. So where are the good bargains on vehicles? Now, different geographical areas might offer better prices. I found, we live in Peoria, that's central Illinois. I found that the cheaper cars to purchase were in northern Illinois or around the Quad Cities. So I did look at those. Had I gotten a screaming good deal on a car, I might have been willing to have driven maybe 80 miles or so, maybe 90, to get a decent car. But it would have had to have been a really good deal in order to get it.
He's always willing to drive farther than I am willing to drive. But the good part about looking online is you can set those parameters. It'll ask you how far from your home do you want to search, and you can set it for 10 miles, 20 miles.
Yes.
Or if you're Larry, 90 or 100 miles.
I set it for 150 miles. But then that also gives you a good idea of what the market is on the vehicle. So while I'm checking out the market, because that's what you want to know, what's the market bearing on the vehicle that you're interested in? You want a kind of a wide variety of cars to come in, maybe 40 or 50 of the type of cars you're looking for. So when I get down to actually purchasing a car, I'll narrow that down to maybe 50 miles.
Let's give them an idea of about 4 places that they may find cars that they want to actually test drive. And then we're swinging right into telling you what to look for when you're actually test driving the vehicle. They can look used. They can look by private owners, right?
Yeah. Now, the thing with a private owner is you're going to get the car as is. You're going to also pay a little bit more than just for the car because you're going to have to register the car. You're going to have to license it, title. There's a title cost.
Pay tax yourself.
And there's tax. So, you have to consider some other cost in there, and you won't be able to trade your car in. So you're going to have to do something with the car that you're replacing if you buy from a private owner. So those are some, but the only thing is that with a private owner, you might get a little cheaper price.
That's right. Now, the next place that they might want to look are smaller, privately owned lots, especially if they have a great reputation or some people who have also successfully purchased vehicles from there. What are the pros and cons of that? We've done all of these, by the way. We purchased from private owners, small car lots, and we've also purchased from dealerships.
Well, the thing about a private lot is they're going to sell older cars, probably that they bought at an auction that were discarded by the franchised new car sales lots. The other thing about a smaller private lot is they don't usually have a service department.
Right.
So they usually send their cars out to get them repaired or fixed or whatever. But I don't even think they even change the oil there. So it's what you see is what you get.
Right, you're kind of on your own there.
Yeah, and we've done that. We've done that. Unfortunately, that was the worst car for us that we ever purchased. So I don't generally go to the private lots. In fact, my favorite one is this next one.
All right. Dealerships. Now we're going to explain to you why we have bought through dealerships and how we have bought through dealerships.
Well, the first thing is a new car dealership has a reputation to keep and maintain. So they're going to be looking that car over a lot more thoroughly before they put it on their lot to sell. And they usually put on later model cars that are going to be more reliable. They're just better cars all the way around. So I like the idea of dealing with a a new car franchise.
The dealership.
Right,
We're dealing
with
with
the
a
dealership.
dealership. Now, they do generally, like, they give the car once over. They also change the oil. A lot of times they'll look at the tires. If the tires are real worn, they'll go ahead and throw not top of the line set of tires on, but they'll throw a set of tires on it because they know it will increase the availability of the car being sold off their lot and sold quickly. So they're in it this is business for them, right? They do this every day of the week. So in general, you get a car that's been looked at a little more carefully. We're going to tell you one of the ways that we have bought from a new car dealership that actually involves like an extra step, right? It's not just a used car. It is a certified pre-owned car.
Now, these are a special category of used cars. They do cost a little bit more, and you can only buy them through the franchise of the make. So if you're looking at a Ford that's a certified pre-owned, you're going to have to go to a Ford dealership. If you're looking for a Chevy, the same thing. These cars, though, have many advantages. Number one, they're going to be a car that's maybe 4 or 5 years old, and they're going to come with a manufacturer warranty. It's similar to having an extended warranty built into the car. So it's probably going to be a warranty that's going to go a little farther than the original manufacturer warranty. They can afford to put a warranty on these cars because, frankly, they're in such good condition.
Right.
They're not taking a high risk on them.
So we bought a Honda Fit. It was a certified pre-owned car.
It happened to be.
And there was a 120-point inspection that was done on it before we purchased it.
Yeah.
And it came with a bumper-to-bumper 1-year warranty. Now, it was overly priced when we looked at it, and we're going to tell you how we negotiated our price and why we very nearly didn't buy that car.
Yeah.
All right.
And these cars, they have to undergo a strict refurbishment that's based on criteria that the manufacturer sets
Right.
in order for the manufacturer to back them up. And they might come with a few perks like free oil change.
Oh, ours did.
They might give you a loaner car. If it goes in for a repair, they'll give you a free loaner. So these are really special cars. Now, we happen to make out pretty good on the Honda Fit because not only was it certified pre-owned, it had been sold new at the dealership that we purchased it from, and it had been serviced from them.
It had been meticulously maintained. Now, one of the things that we always recommend when you're looking at a used vehicle is that you take it to your own mechanic when you're test driving it and have it checked out by an independent mechanic. So not the person or the entity that is selling the vehicle. If you ever go to test drive a vehicle and say, I would like to take this over to my mechanic and have my mechanic give it a little look-see, look around under the hood. And if that person or that used car lot says absolutely not, that's a problem. That's a huge red flag. Walk away, because they should be confident enough in their own product they are selling to allow someone to independently look at it. Now, certified pre-owned cars, do we recommend necessarily that they have to have this done?
No, we've only
don't.
bought the one. We've bought regular cars and that weren't certified pre-owned. In fact, most of the time, my strategy is to buy the make of a car that's different from the dealership. So, for instance, I went to a Ford dealership and bought a Pontiac. Why is that? It actually was cheaper.
It was cheaper there than it was, yeah.
And it's cheaper. It's cheaper to buy a Toyota Prius at a Ford lot. It just is. They tend to price their own makes a little bit higher. So, there's another strategy for you.
But they are still a bona fide dealership, and you're probably still going to get a car that's been gone over mechanically and looked at. With certified pre-owned, we say don't go that extra step. Don't go ahead and take it to your own mechanic because that's been done, and it's coming with a 1-year bumper-to-bumper warranty. So that step really isn't needed. But we do throw that in there for your caution to just go ahead and have it looked at by your own mechanic. All right, we have told them how to save for the vehicle, where to look, how to narrow down the make and model, and now we're getting to the good stuff. We're going to get you all test driving. What do they want to do when they're test driving?
Well, now you're ready to narrow it down to the car. So this is where I go into Car Gurus and I pick out a couple of cars that I actually want to look at. I will go by myself. And the reason why I go by myself, I don't want any distractions. Hope doesn't want to be involved in the process. She could care less. So I just go by myself. And that way I can keep my full attention on the car and not on anything else.
Like I tell him, I said, you bring the car home when you're ready for me to marry it, not date it, okay? So yeah, if you're serious, bring it home. Otherwise, I don't want to see it. Take one of the boys with you. That's why we had 4 sons. Take one of them with you.
Yeah, most of the time they don't really want to go along either. So and I enjoy doing it, so I'm good with that. So the very first thing that I look at a car, I'll just go out to the lot and physically look over the exterior. What kind of condition is it in? Is it clean? Is the body clean? Does it have a bunch of scuffs and bumps and all kinds of things on it? If it does, I'm going to think, well, the owner, if this is the way the owner took care of the car, it's probably the way they took care of all of the car. And I'm not going to consider that vehicle. We actually test drove a vehicle that had a lot of that on it, and we decided not to go with it.
Now, one of the secret tips you give them is, so you've got to have a salesperson with you to actually get the car door open after you've looked at the exterior. Open the doors and look around the edge of the doors for overspray. Overspray will tell you that car was in an accident or that part has been replaced, right?
That's right. And we didn't do that with one of our cars. I found the overspray later.
These are all cautionary tales, guys.
Yeah, I went, oh my gosh, it's been hit in the door, in the front door.
Yes, it had.
So these are things you need to look at. And the other thing now about Car Gurus is that it will tell you if the vehicle has been in an accident or not. Or it'll tell you if it's been in 2 or 3 accidents. So once again, there's a lot more information available to you right at your fingertips that didn't used to be.
It does pay to run the VIN number to see if it's been in an accident before. You can find that information. If you're buying from a dealership, generally they have done that for you. They'll show you the printout, and that the dealership has paid to have that done.
And that's Carfax. And
Right.
Carfax will tell you when it was sold. It'll give you the history of the vehicle. It'll tell you if it's been in any accidents. Of course, you don't want a car that's got a lien on it or any financial, baggage. So for sure, you want a good car with a good clean history.
All right, it's got a clean title. It's not scuffed on the outside. There's no overspray. They're going to get inside and they're going to get it to test drive. What are they going to
Well,
do?
the first thing that I do is I get in the driver's seat. I put the seat where it's going to be comfortable for me, and then I just kind of look around. Is this a comfortable car? Can I reach all the controls? Is there enough visibility? I'll look around. I'll look through the windows. Does it have some major blind spots? And unfortunately, a lot of cars do today. Because of restrictions on safety, they have to have a little bit more larger A-pillars and some of that kind of stuff. But I'm really interested in how clean is the car. And I don't mean the kind of clean that a dealership cleans a car up. I mean,
Right.
are the seats stained? Is there scuffs and scratches on the plastic? Is there stains on some of the material? Or is it a nice clean car? If it's a nice clean car, it's probably been well taken care of. And that's a consideration that I like to take.
Take your hand and stick it down between the seats where the seats come together and stick your hand down there and see if there's debris down there, if there's sticky stuff down there, if there's children's toys stuck down there. These are areas that car dealerships tend to miss when they are actually physically cleaning up the car. So you can tell a lot about a vehicle by just sticking your hands and fingers in the nooks and crannies that the car dealership may have missed.
Oh, right. And then I look at the condition of the carpeting. I opened up the trunk or the hatchback, take a look at all of that. Did they use it to haul dirty things? Is it all stained? And also in regards to sitting in that driver's seat, is it roomy or cramped? Can you reach all the controls? So there's a lot of things to consider. Take a little time. Run all of the electronics in the car. Run all the controls. That means windshield wipers, lights, the radio, air conditioning, heater. Give those things all a try out before you take it on the road, because you don't want to be distracted with all that while you're driving it. Check all that out first. when you take it for the test drive, leave the car radio off so you can listen to the car, see how it sounds.
What are they listening for?
Well, you're going to be listening for rattles. You're going to be listening, is the engine smooth? Is it making any unusual noises that a car shouldn't be making? These are things you want to really, really tune into. You also want to, check the power windows, make sure those are working. Once again, check everything out. Make sure you got a car that's good and reliable.
If the seats fold them down, put them back up. How hard is that to do? If you have to move seats back or forth in order to get children in and out of the car, do it. See how hard it is to do. Now, we mentioned hauling things, and there's one thing we suggest strongly you don't haul when you're test driving a car, and that is your kids. Now, eventually our kids do see a car, especially when they were younger. Before we purchased the car, they did get an opportunity to take one last test drive in the car so we could see how it felt to have them actually sitting in the car. But we did take their car seats with us when we initially test drove the car. If you're a parent of even more than one child, you will know that getting car seats in and out of a car, how easy that is, counts when you are test driving. So make sure you take the car seats with you without the kids the first time. If you want the kids to take a test drive and see how it feels with them actually sitting in the car seat, whether you can see them clearly from each angle.
Okay, so now you're ready, of course, to start the car. We'll back up to that.
All right, start the car.
So when you start the car, how does it start? Does it start right away? Does it sound smooth? Is it running free? These are things you want to listen to. And then now you're ready to drive the car. How does it feel? Does it feel solid? Does it hold the road? Does it steer okay? Does it grab to one direction or the other? How are the brakes? Are the brakes smooth? Once again, do they grab? Are they braking the way they should? Is it stopping the car? Do they feel solid? Does the brake pedal sit up high where it should? Or do you have to go way down to the floor before it starts braking? Does the car idle smoothly? And does it accelerate smoothly?
Take the car to an empty parking lot, get it moving along, and then briefly, very briefly, see if it will steer straight.
And the way you do that is you just take your hands off the steering wheel and just see how the car goes.
Totally empty parking lot, guys. Level parking lot. Right. Nobody else around. What you want to know is it pulling to one side or the other? Because that's not a good sign. Look at the tires. Make sure there's enough tread on the tires. And if the tires are worn, guys, it's perfectly legit to put, hey, throw a new set of tires on this car for X amount of dollars out the door, and then we'll negotiate the price with a new set of tires. That's an okay thing to do. We're going to talk about negotiating the price in just a sec. We got a couple more tips on what you should be listening for and what you should be watching for when you are test driving that vehicle.
Does the transmission shift smoothly? Or in a manual car, can you shift it smoothly?
There's the test on that.
Now, does the transmission lurch or does it slip? These are all things you want to check out. That can be a very expensive fix if you have to fix it.
Make sure you take it out on the highway and make sure you get it up to speed, because sometimes a car that is perfectly fine at 35 miles an hour may shake like crazy when you get it on the highway and you're going 65 or 70 on the expressway.
And that can be, of course, due to tires being out of balance. There's lots of different reasons for that.
And finally, how easy is it to read that instrument panel? If you are squinting to read the instrument panel in broad daylight, it's probably going to be worse at night. So make sure that you can see everything clearly on the instrument panel and you can read it clearly.
I like simple instruments that aren't cluttered. Now, we drove one car. It just had so much clutter on the instrument panel that I just didn't want to deal with that. I like a nice big speedometer, and I like a nice simple gas gauge and so on. I like simple instruments to be able to monitor the car to see how it's driving.
It looked good on paper, but in practicality, after about 5 minutes, it was driving him nuts. And one of our sons with him, and that's our son who's 17, and it was driving him nuts. So it wasn't just because we're older folks. It was just not laid out very well. Those are the kind of things you want to look at. Now, we're going to get you through negotiating the price of that new to you used vehicle.
Yeah. Okay. So you're happy with the car.
Yep.
It meets all of your criteria, or at least most of it.
Right.
Now you're ready to sit down and negotiate the price with the seller. So what do? Well, the first thing you want to do, you want to have done your homework before you even get to the dealership or the private seller, wherever you're going, you want to know the value of that car. You want to know the value of your trade-in so that when they give you a price, you'll know exactly whether that's too high or too low or just right. Of course, if it's too low and they're selling it, go for it. That's okay if it's too low. So one of the best ways to determine that, of course, once again, there's Car Gurus, there's Kelley Blue Book, and there's Edmunds. So the one that I use really the most is Car Gurus because it'll tell you whether the value that they have placed on that car is too high or too low or whatever it happens to be. You can go by that. That actually is pretty accurate. But you can go to the other sites to determine the value of your trade-in, and that will help you with the value of your car since it's not listed on Car Gurus.
Now, this one tip actually saved us thousands of dollars when we were purchasing our Honda Fit recently. We knew ahead of time when we walked in the exact value of that vehicle, and we also knew the exact value of what we were trading in. We knew two things. They weren't offering us enough for our trade-in, and we also knew that they had that car priced $2,000 above list price. And we used those to our advantage to negotiate the price that we wanted to pay.
Yes. Now, let me say, I don't get real emotional when I'm doing this negotiation. No. I just put the facts on the table. Here's what the car's worth. Here's what I'm willing to pay. Either I'm willing to pay that much or I'm not. It's that simple. If they're not willing to work with us, we walk. And that's what we did with the Honda. We walked. They weren't even close. And I wasn't disappointed in them. They did a nice job. They were nice and friendly and so on. But they could not meet us on the deal. So we went out of the door and, we just waited on it. Now
and we left them. We made sure we left them with our name and contact information and said, should you decide to negotiate on the price, feel free to let us know. First of all, don't burn your bridges, guys. If it's a vehicle you're seriously interested in and you feel like you can negotiate the price you want, don't burn your bridges. Don't completely lowball them on your initial offer. Did we offer less, a little less than we were willing to pay? Not too much less. We knew what we were willing to pay.
Right.
And we wanted to see them come a whole lot closer to what we were willing to pay because I think initially we were about $4,000 apart on what they wanted and what we were willing to pay. So make sure that you're not leaving them with a bad taste in their mouth or they will not contact you should they decide to lower the price of that vehicle.
What I did was I continued looking for cars and just continued up the search. I found a few more and I just waited. 2 months went by and I noticed that their car was still on the lot. I didn't have anything to lose. I thought, why not contact them again, see if they're ready to sell that car. So I told them, I said, this was the amount that we had said we would be willing to pay, which happened to be $10,000 out the door. That kind of means about $9,200 for them. So that really was a lot less than what they had it listed for.
Now tell them why we negotiate out the door. This is a huge thing. We have always negotiated a price out the door. If you don't negotiate out the door, what else are you going to pay?
Well, let me just briefly explain to them what out the door means. Out the door is the price you're going to write the check for. It's the price you're actually going to pay for the car. So that's going to include license, title, registration, tax, any of their fees that they add on. It's going to include all that. What sometimes the dealerships do is they'll add some fees in there that are just convenience fees for them.
Advertising fees, all kinds
promotional
of different promotional fees.
They'll even add dealer prep fees, which I guess would be washing the car and so on.
Right.
So I don't really care about all that. If you go to some sites, they'll say you got to negotiate it line by line, all that stuff. No, if you're just getting an out the door price, you don't have to worry about all that. It's simpler. This is what I'm going to pay for the car. Well, I gave the salesman that amount of money again after 2 months. He upped it by $200. Came back at me with $10,200. Well, that's a reasonable price to pay for that car. Frankly, it was a cream puff car. I said we're good on it. I called Hope and said, "What did you think?" And she was on board. So we got the car, and we're very happy with it.
The next question is, do you use your car as a trade-in? And do you tell them that you're paying cash? Let's deal with the trade-in first. We always ask about the price with and without the trade-in. So we kind of know exactly what they're offering us for our vehicle.
Well, yeah, and then that way you know where that negotiation is going on it. Some people will tell you that you shouldn't even tell them you're trading a car in until after you've negotiated the price on the car you're buying. Once again, with an out-the-door price, and as long as you know the value of both vehicles, that may not be real important. That's up to you what you're comfortable doing there.
So the second part of the question is, do you tell them that you're paying cash? In general, we don't mention it up front. We don't walk in, saying, hey, we're paying cash, because car dealerships make a fee based on you financing the car through them. They get a kickback.
Yep.
So for them, that's part of the deal. That sweetens the deal for them if you are actually taking a loan out on the car. So we absolutely don't recommend walking in and saying, yep, I'm paying cash. We don't recommend being dishonest with a car dealership either. For the most part, we have discovered, especially if you're looking for a car that's $10K, $14K, somewhere in that price range, they are working on the assumption that you are financing it. And most of the time, they haven't even asked us. In fact, when we negotiated the price on our Honda Fit, they did not know until we walked into the store that night that we were paying cash.
Right. Now, the other thing that you're going to encounter once they accept the deal, when you get into that finance office and you're signing all the papers, usually that person will try to sell you an extended warranty. And that can cost like up to $3,500 or even more, depending on their options for that extended warranty. I would advise not getting that. They're offering you the extended warranty because it works to their advantage, not to yours. If you're more comfortable getting that, that's up to you. If you can sleep better at night knowing that you've got a little extra warranty on your car, then that's okay. That's up to you how you want to do it. I generally don't do it. We did it once and it did work out to our advantage.
It did. It was a massive problem with that car, and it saved us hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
The cluster on the panel went out, and it was probably about a $1,500, $1,800 repair. They had to eat that cost. It actually equaled the amount of money we put down on it, so it was good. So in that case,
we more than made up our money from purchasing that extended warranty. It's the only time that we've done it in 30 years, and for some weird reason we did it, and it worked out to our advantage. If you have the money in hand for the extended warranty, and if it will allow you to sleep better at night, and if you do not have a sinking fund dedicated already to car repairs, you may want to consider it. However, our best advice is to have a permanent sinking fund that you put a little bit of money in every single month, and that you use that sinking fund in case of car repairs. That's the way we have done it for years and years, and it's worked out just fine for us.
Okay, so you're all done with the car deal. You got the keys in your hand. You got the new plates on it, and you're driving home. Now you can feel really good. You did your homework. You did your research. You've got the right car for your needs. You got it at the right price. It's in your budget, and you got a reliable vehicle. It's a wonderful feeling, and it's worth it to go through all of that time and effort to get yourself a good car. It's the second major investment that you'll make. The first, of course, being your home.
We'd love to know in the comments section if you found this helpful. And more than that, we'd love for you to chat with us in the comments section. What strategies do you use in order to pay for a new to you used vehicle? Now, for most of us, this whole idea of saving up to pay cash for a used vehicle, that's a pretty doggone big sinking fund, because as we mentioned, we start saving to replace a car immediately as soon as we purchase another used car. If you'd love to know how to actually put sinking funds together and how you can successfully fund sinking funds, we have 3 really important strategies for you when it comes to sinking funds. That's the video you're going to want to watch next.